As many of you know, Rick and I are in the middle of building a donkey rescue here in Tennessee. And you may or may not know the main number one thing that causes donkey rescues to fail is a lack of money. And while our other business does well, I didn't want to have to rely on that solely to support the donkey rescue. I knew I needed to find a way to have other resources to save as many donkeys as I can. So I did something. I decided I wanted to learn how to trade stocks because I see everyday people making enough money in one day with trading stocks to rescue and feed 20 donkeys for an entire year. And I knew I could do it. I taught myself a lot about finance when we started Trufinco. And trust me, I came into it knowing nothing. And now I think I'm considered kind of an expert. But here's the best part. You guys are going to learn how to trade right along with me. I'm super lucky. I have an awesome friend named Aaron who has been a professional trader for over a decade now. And he teaches everyday people like you and me how to understand the markets and how to make money with them. I have recorded every single one of our teaching sessions, and I am going to share them all with you right here on Sara Learns Trading. So I hope you learn as much as I have through these sessions. And who knows, maybe we'll all just learn how to make a little extra cash to do a little more good in this world, because we all know our world could definitely use that right now. And small disclaimer, I knew nothing about stock trading when we started. So I ask a lot of really dumb questions. But you know what? That's how I learn. And maybe that's how you learn too. So if I'm willing to put myself out there and make a fool out of myself, maybe it'll help you learn as well. So here's today's lesson.
Okay, how about that? Oh, there you go.
Hey, can you hear me? Yep.
All right, how are you? I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity.
Oh gosh, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I've watched like so much of your stuff. I sent it out to all my Facebook friends yesterday, and they all jumped on it. So
Oh, thank you.
that is an
That's
awesome ceiling, by the way.
Thank you. Isn't that cool? So it's from the
Is that
there's an old
reclaimed wood?
yeah, well no, it's tin from there's a um an old barn on our property, and it's tin from the old barn.
That's pretty cool.
I
That's
know.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
How many acres do you have out there? You're in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, we're on 132.
132, very nice. Yeah, ours was 100, and then when my grandma passed, they sold. This is kind of cool. When my grandma passed, they sold off 50 of it, but my uncle bought the 50, and he built a 3-acre pond on the back with a cabin.
Oh, cool.
So
Wow.
we can go out there and fish and, kind of not camp because there is water and electricity there, but it's kind of cool. He's upset now because it's way out in the country. I always say that's where you want
Yeah.
to like bury something you don't want anybody to find. It's like that far out there.
Yeah.
And but he's like, he said in the fall or in the winter, you can actually see one other house now. So he's like all up in arms about this, right? And I'm like, come on, man. Like, but anyway,
That's awesome.
well, thanks for jumping on. And the way I want to do this is, obviously it's a very fluid environment, right? The way I teach is I don't want to sit here and just kind of bark orders as this is what you should do, that's what you should do. I don't think that helps anyone. So let's just start out, and no question is too basic, no question is off limits. Like I said, like if I was asking you something about what you do and I don't have any ideas about the genetics of donkeys or their care or anything like that. So you'd be taking me from step 1, right?
Right.
Step 0. So why don't you just take the lead and tell me what are some questions you have? Like, just go ahead and start spitballing everything, and then we can kind of organize our training
Okay.
from that.
I actually have a couple questions. It relates to it all. I'm curious, you know, you must be really good at this in the realm of stock trading. So are you, in terms of stock dads, I feel like inept, but whatever. What is your role? Are you just one of the traders out there like Ace, or is it?
Yes, to a point. I focus more on the education side. Just teach. And then my personal trading, I have, I call them silos. I have you'll understand that term, silos. I have multiple silos, right? So I have my long-term silo. I
Okay.
have what's called my cash secure put silo, which is you might have to spend an hour a week on it.
Okay.
I've got my intraday futures trading silo. Okay. And my
Okay.
job is to keep each one profitable.
And so is this this is your full-time job?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
This is what
That's
I do.
awesome.
And like I said, if I only make 1 to 2 to 3 trades a day on the intraday stuff, I've got my system in place where I can, be profitable doing that. And I'm totally fine with that. Right. I
Wow.
absolutely love teaching. I'm a former professional hockey coach and a former
Oh,
professional
wow.
hockey player. So once I got into coaching after I retired from playing, the coaching teaching bug really got me,
Paid.
and I love,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
gets me fired up. So that's where I am. That's how I think of my whole system,
Okay.
if you want to call it that.
And my biggest question is, obviously there's something, what is it that you love about trading? What is it that keeps you going?
I think for me, coming from a sports background, and coming from a farm and all that, coming from that hardworking, you got to get after it, no excuses type, the whole thing is, no matter how you're feeling, animals still got to eat. So get out there and, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can't really, you know, and what keeps me going is the challenge of, obviously learning, but the challenge of you have to be super humble and you have to be very self-aware of how you behave under stressors that the market can put on you. And it's kind of a self-exploration type thing. And that's what I really enjoy about like my personal trading. Also, obviously the freedom that comes from, I don't have to, go to an office every day and have a boss over my shoulder and all that. But also what, and I kind of learned this from when I started coaching high school kids in hockey, that when you shrink the learning curve for someone or you show someone something that works and that light bulb goes off and you see them having success and that your fingerprints are on that, that's a pretty cool thing. That really gets me jazzed up. So, you know what I mean? That kind of gets me out of bed, gets me out of bed in the morning. So, but I love it. I mean, it's the thing that I've learned through this, and you will as well, is once we understand that trading, we have to treat it like any other business, right? Like, whether it's I always use the convenience store analogy. So say you purchased a franchise of like a really nice, one of the big gas stations, like a Sheetz or a Wawa, or I don't know what you guys have out there, but that business has a business model that's going to be profitable over time, right? Now, you might have, a lousy Monday or a lousy Monday and Tuesday where it actually costs you money, right? It costs you more to have the employees there and the lights on than you actually brought in. But if you stick to the business model, that over the course of time, that business is going to be profitable, right? It's the same way with trading. And once you can kind of get that part down, because it can be, super exciting and super all this stuff, and you can get wrapped up in all that. But if you can if you can manage this like any other business and understand that, hey, there's probably going to be days where the business isn't profitable. But I know over the course of, 7 days or 5 days, or over the course of 30 days, my business is going to be profitable, right? As long as I stick to what I know, I'm supposed to do. Now, the one thing, and I try to stress this to everybody, you have to understand with trading that we live in a world that has zero rules, right? There is no one to police us. No one's going to tap you on the shoulder and say you shouldn't have done that, or do this or do that. So again, we can push the buy and sell whenever the heck we want. We don't have to do anything, right? There's no rules whatsoever. So, understanding that, and, realizing that we have to kind of police ourselves, right? Is a big, huge, massive part of what we do. And, once you kind of get to a point, you'll understand that, hey, we've got a system put together that over time makes us money. And all our job is to not mess with that, right? Like, we just want to trade what we know over time is going to work. When we introduce, at least for me, when I introduce myself too much into the system, right? If you've got a system that produces, 7 out of 10 winners, and you start messing with the inside of those mechanics, it's going to screw the whole thing up, right? So, just understand that as we go through this, we're building, basically you're building a small business, right? You really are. So, and we'll get into all the ins and outs of all that, but I don't even know where your question started, why I do this. I guess that's why I do this.
Yeah. Wow. No, I think this is going to be good for me. I mean, I'm definitely picking up. I like the silo analogy. That helps me. I'm good with analogies, but definitely, I think not having all your eggs in one basket is very smart. Absolutely. And I think for me, what's going to be a good practice is not being so reactive. Like, when I see something not doing well, realizing it's okay in the long term. I got to look at the bigger picture instead of going, oh my God, this is going, I don't even know what you say, going down. I don't even know what the proper term is. But, I think that's going to be good for me. But I'm very green. I mean, I guess from even starting at the basics, when you talk about a trade, is that buying and selling? Is that all encompassing? Is that what the term even is?
All a trade is, okay, is our markets, okay, our stock markets. I think I saw a post or something you did about going to an auction.
Yes.
You've been to auctions?
Yeah.
Perfect. The stock market is no different.
Okay.
Everything's an auction.
You're right. Okay.
Okay, so every buyer of a stock, there's got to be a seller.
Yep. Okay.
So when we see price fluctuations on a certain stock, those are the buyers and sellers matching up. Okay, and they match up and a transaction happens, and that's a trade. Okay, so if you say you want to buy company XYZ, okay, I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
Say you've got $100 and XYZ's price is $10. Okay. So you want to go in and buy 10 shares. So you go in and say, XYZ company is at $10. So you buy 10 shares of XYZ company at $10. Okay. So $100. Now you own 10 shares of XYZ company, right? Well, XYZ company, so you bought it there and the exchange matched you up with the seller, and that transaction happened. Okay? Then there's all these other buyers and sellers. So you own it now.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
You want it now. You want it to go up in value,
Yep.
right? So there's all these other, now here's $10, okay? Now there's thousands of other buyers and sellers doing the same thing. So you'll see it, you know, a buyer and seller match up at maybe 10:05, and then you'll see a buyer and seller match up at 9:55. And then you'll see a
Okay.
buyer and seller match up, and they're all trading these shares. The share is what the livestock is that you buy at the auction.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense.
Those are shares, right?
Okay.
And as that price goes up, you can actually take your $10, right? Or your 10 shares, sorry, that you bought at $10. And you can say, okay, if it gets to $11 and there's buyers there to buy my shares away from me, you can put in an order at $11.
Okay.
Okay, so you had bought the shares at 10, right?
Yep.
And you can, on your platform, and we'll get into this, you can say, okay, well, I'm willing to sell my 10 shares that I bought for $10. I'm willing to sell those at $11. So you can just put that order in.
Okay.
And if it gets up to $11, it'll match you with the seller
Ah,
and it'll sell it immediately for you. You don't have to do anything.
geez. Okay. And then you've just made $1 on each of those
$1 per
shares.
share. So you'd make $10.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have so many questions.
No,
But
please ask. That's what we're here to do.
out of that analogy, first of all, is it the demand that makes the price go up? Is it more people being I don't understand what makes it go up, what makes it go down.
Perfect question. I actually did one of my little videos on that this weekend. Okay, so hold on a second. Just
Yeah. Please, I like props.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yep.
Okay. Let me move this down a little bit so you can see. Okay. So a little bit more. All right. That's a battery, if you didn't know.
Okay. Okay.
Battery with tape on it. These are traders.
Okay, so they represent traders. Okay, so that'd be like you and me. We're
Exactly.
batteries. Okay.
So we're gonna call this company Swab, because this is a cotton swab. See what I did there?
Yep.
Swab. Right.
Okay.
So this guy over here, okay, he bought Swab at, can you see it? At $9.
Yep. Okay, I don't see the 9, but I'll just take your word for it. It's too bright for some reason.
Oh, here. Really, there we go.
Yep, there we go. So Swab, that's hilarious. Okay,
Yeah,
Swab,
so
he bought it for $9 a share.
this guy bought it for $9. Oh, now you can kind of see it.
Yep,
Okay,
now I see it.
This guy bought it for $9.
Okay.
So he has these shares of Swab now, right?
Okay.
He's got these shares of Swab. So he wants to sell these shares,
Okay.
right? He bought them at $9.
Okay.
So he wants to make a profit. So he puts out an order at the market, okay,
Okay.
for $9.25.
Okay. And after I don't even understand what's an order at the market.
You just put it on your platform that you'll have to trade on.
Okay.
You can just enter an order that says, hey, if this gets to 9.25,
I'll sell it.
it'll sell it by itself.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's just typing in sell 9.25.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
You don't even have to think about it. So he goes to this level at 9.25.
Okay.
Right? And to see if there's any buyers there. Okay, well, yeah, this guy wants to buy his shares at 9.25.
Okay.
Okay, so the shares then transfer from this guy.
Yep.
Who goes away to this guy.
To that. Yep. And
Now
he made 25 cents.
Now the stock price is $9.25 because there was a buyer that was willing to pay more than $9.
Okay.
So now if you would look like on the screen or whatever, the stock price would read of Schwab, the stock price would read 9.25.
For everybody. So
For everybody.
anybody wanting to purchase it at this point has to pay $9.25.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So this guy then says, hey, I bought it at $9.25. I'm going to go over to this fella over here because I want to make some money. And I'm going to put in an order for this stock at $9.50.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to type in an order. I bought these shares. I'm going to type in an order. And if it gets to if there's any buyers at $9.50 for the amount of shares I have, say I have one, if there's anybody that wants to buy one share at $9.50, then somebody will buy it from me.
Okay.
Right. Well, this guy looks at it and says, hey, $9.50 is a pretty good deal. I want to buy those. Right. Because he thinks the price is going to continue to go up.
Yep.
So he's like, cool. So he sells him. Now these shares have changed hands twice already.
Yep.
But because we had a buyer at $9.50, now the price is $9.50.
Correct. Yep.
Right. Well, so now we're trading at $9.50.
Yep.
Same exact thing. This guy has them at $9.50 and he thinks, well, I want to make a little bit of profit too. So he types in an order to see if there's any buyers at $9.75.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this guy, okay, looks at this and he's watching the chart and all that fancy stuff. But he says, okay, I think $9.75 is a pretty good deal because I think the price is going to continue to go up.
Yep.
So he buys these shares from this guy.
Yep.
So now the price, since there were buyers at $9.75, the price of the stock is $9.75.
Yep.
So you can't buy it at $9.50 anymore, which was this guy down here. You can't buy it at $9.50 anymore unless someone is willing to sell it to you at $9.50.
Okay. But why would someone want to sell it less than the price that it is?
If for some reason they think it's going to go way down and they want to.
Got it. They want to unload it. Okay.
Yeah, they want to unload it.
Okay.
But see, now it's all an auction. So this guy would probably then try to turn around and say, I'm going to sell it at, I bought it at $9.75. I'm willing to sell it at $10 or $10.50 or something like that. But if he's watching the price and all of a sudden he's watching the price go down, right?
And why would it go down?
Good thing, because, okay, what do we need to have? Okay, what do we, come on, Swap.
Buyers.
What do we need to have at each level for the price to go up?
Buyers that are willing to pay that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if the stock price gets to a point and you run out of buyers,
it's going to start going down.
Boom.
And okay, so I'm jumping way ahead here, but that's how my brain works. So it goes down. And so, for example, let's just be what's going on right now, Tesla, right? So it's dropped way down. So there's nobody willing to pay those higher prices. But let's say it was, I don't even know. Let's say it was 10,000 a share. Now it's 25 a share. What determines it being at that 25? There's still people willing to buy it at 25, or what determines those spots as it drops down?
Think about it this way. Here, let me go back up to me now. Okay. So think about it just like an auction. Okay. So let's take Tesla, for example. Okay. So, or our XYZ company or Swap. We'll call it Swap because that's cute because it's a swap. So if we are going up in price, right? $9.50, $9.75, $10. There have to be, for it to continue to go up, there have to be more buyers than sellers.
Okay. Okay.
there have to be more people wanting to buy it
Yep.
for it to keep going up.
Yep. Okay, makes
So
total
if you
sense.
run out of people that want to buy it any higher, people are like, no, that's way too expensive. I'm not buying it up there. I want to buy it
Yep.
cheaper. So then as the stock goes down, okay, you have more sellers than buyers.
Yep.
So the stock will continue to fall until the size of the buyers and the size of the sellers equal out.
Got it. Okay.
And then it will stop.
Ah, okay. And that's okay. That makes total sense. Okay.
Yeah. And then it's all a lot of what we do or what you see is reactionary. So think about it this way, right? Just simple it up. If you're watching this stock and say you want to own it, okay, say this is a company you want to own. Well, you see this company going down and down and down and down and down. And you're probably like, well, I'm going to wait. It's still going down. But then once you see it, if you understand how the market mechanics work, and you're like, not enough buyers there, not enough buyers there,
Right.
not enough buyers there. And then you see it stop and start going the other way, and you see it start going back up. That means that more buyers stepped in at that level because they think that that's a good place
to buy in.
to buy it.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then as that, it's the bandwagon theory, as that price keeps going up now, because there's more buyers that see it going up, then more buyers enter. And they're like, ooh, I want a piece of this because it's going up.
Yeah.
And then more buyers enter. It's still going up. And more buyers enter until we get to a point where we run out of people that want to buy it at that level.
Okay.
And then it'll pull back again until we find new buyers.
Okay. So that's what makes it go like this.
Yep. 100%. 100%. So think about it this way. So if we've got our little analogy that we had, and we had, you know, $9, $9.25, $9.50, $9.75, right? And then $10 with our batteries.
Yeah.
So it might go, because all this happens very fast and the market instantaneously matches buyers and sellers. So there might be a whole group that wants to buy it at 9.25. So it bumps to 9.25. And then there's like a whole bunch of people at that level that want to sell it at 9.50. So it might not go to 9.50. Well, all the 9.25 people might want to sell it back at 9.25. So then it goes back. So it's just a matter of where, if a stock's going to go up, just think of it very simple, because that's all it is.
Yeah.
There have to be more buyers than sellers to make it go up.
To go up. Yep.
Because that's the demand side.
Yep. Okay.
Because if someone sees it at $10 and they can't get their order filled at $10, but they still want to buy it, right? And it moves to 10.25, then they'll buy it at 10.25. Well, all those 10.25 people that wanted to get their order in there missed it, and it goes to 10.50. Well, like, I still want to buy it, so I'll buy it at 10.50. And then boom, 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 until we run out of buyers.
Right.
And another way, and I don't want to get too ahead of the game here, but another way that it'll go up and then come down is because, and I'm trying to word this right to not make it confusing. Well, let me ask you this. What's the opposite of a buy order?
A sell order.
Exactly. So if you bought something, right, and you want to take profit, what kind of order do you have to put in?
A sell order.
Exactly. So a lot of times when you see a market going down, it's not necessarily people not wanting the stock. It's the people that bought it at 10 saying, hey, if it gets to 11, I want to take my profit.
Right.
And all those would be sell orders. So sometimes you'll see it go up, and if there's not enough buy orders to keep it going, right, then all these people are just going to, they want to take profit. They want to make their dollar.
Right.
So if there's enough of those, right, selling, it'll start to inch down a little bit.
Yep.
So it's all
Oh.
in auction, and it's all supply and demand.
No, that makes sense. I like thinking of it as an auction because I watched the auction. It was our first big auction, but it was interesting because he would start like at, let's say a goat was $100. And if no one was bidding at it, then he'd drop it to 60. And then people started bidding, so it would go back up. That makes total sense to me.
You have to
Okay.
find where you have to find,
Right.
remember, this is the stock market. It's a market.
Right. Same thing. Yep.
Same thing. So you have to find where the market is telling you the buyers are. So
Right.
again, like you might
It's interesting. Okay.
start at $100, like you said, and then
Yeah.
nope, nobody there, nobody
Yeah.
at 9, nobody at 8,
Right.
nobody at 7, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, where the market thinks it's value, right?
Yep.
Where they think they're getting value, that's where the buyers step in. And then, like I
Right.
said, then it's all that demand. Then people see it going down and then stop and going back up.
Right.
And that's when everybody, that's
Yeah.
when they're jumping on
Yep.
until it gets
And
too heavy at the top
Yep.
and nobody's
Yep.
willing to buy more. And then it'll pull back to another
Yep.
area where people think it's valuable.
Makes
And then
total
it'll go.
sense.
And that's
So
all.
that makes sense. That makes total sense. But see, all that prompted a ton of other questions. So, for example, let's say I buy my stock at $10. How do I decide what my sale price is going to be? Like, how do I decide? How do I not jump in and go, well, I'm only going to sell if it hits 20? Why would I say, oh, I only want it to sell if it hits 11? Like, how do people determine that?
That's what I will show you as we go along.
Okay. Okay.
Because you'll be able to see on a chart, and it's really not that hard once your brain realizes what you're wanting. It's like you're telling your brain, like with all this stuff, you're telling your brain you want to see something, right? And your
Right.
brain's like, I don't know yet what you're trying to tell me to see, right?
Yeah.
And you stick with it. And then finally your brain catches up and it's like, oh, okay, now this makes sense. And it starts to
Yep.
process things. So when you look at a chart, you will be able to see where's a good place to take profit. Because in a nutshell, if you want to break trading down to its simplest form, we want to buy where people are buying and we want to sell where people are selling.
Yep.
Right. So on a chart,
Yep.
you'll be able to identify with a high degree of probability where the buyers are on the chart.
Yep.
And where the sellers are. So
Okay.
as it, as a stock price would go up on the chart, you'll be able to identify, hey, this is probably a good level to take my profit, because last time we were up at this level, we came all the way back down.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So that's where you
Yep.
determine your sale price. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to guess everything. You'll hear me use the term technical analysis.
Okay.
What technical analysis is a fancy way to read a chart.
Okay.
That's all it is. So
you're okay. I mean, so every time you buy and sell, all of that, you're always, with every stock you do, you look at a chart before you do anything. Okay. And the charts, I know you're going to show me, but the charts are somewhere and you can just, I mean, but then
let me just show you something. Let me just show you something real quick for fun.
Okay. Okay. I mean, how do you even decide which stocks you want to even look at their charts? That's where I'm like, how do you even, like, there's so many stocks. How do you even go, okay, I want to look at Tesla. I don't.
Right. Well, there's a ton of different instruments that we can trade. Okay. There's stocks, there's options, there's futures. There's all these different instruments we can trade. You don't need to know. You don't need to know all that, right?
Okay.
You don't need to know all that. I was just telling somebody yesterday, one of the previous students I have, because he's all flustered and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, just remember, this business is only about finding a couple things that you're good at. And you just take those couple things you're good at and do them over and over and over. You don't have to know everything about everything to be successful in this business. Not
Okay,
at
that
all. See,
helps.
what happens a lot with people, like driven people, like obviously you're a driven person,
Right.
you know, and most anybody in this business is a driven person. And the pitfall that a lot, and I ran into this too, the pitfalls that we fall into is being the type of people that most of us are, is when we conquer one thing, it's like, okay, what's next? Right?
Right.
What's the
Yep.
next thing I need to conquer? What's the next thing I need to conquer? And trading is really kind of flips that on its head, because literally it's about finding what works for you,
Okay.
what's comfortable with your personality,
Yep.
and finding a couple things that you're good at and just doing those over and over.
I like that.
You see, and the beauty part about this is I use the I don't know where these strange analogies come from in my head, so just bear with me. I'm not sure. I use the tire salesman analogy on this. So in a normal business, right? So say you sell a set of tires. This guy sells a set of tires, right? And he makes, I don't know, $100, whatever. Well, to make another $100, he's got to sell more tires. And to make another $100, he needs to sell more tires. He needs to keep doing all this volume. And he needs to, learn a new way to market to get to these people, a new way to market to get to these people, do all that. Well,
Right.
in our business, we can take that same set of tires, meaning our setups, we can trade the same set of tires. And after a while, instead of making $100, we can increase our size. We sell the same set of tires and make $200.
Yep.
And then a few months down the road, we sell the same set of tires and make $300. Because our
Okay.
business is so scalable that we can do the same exact things over and over and over and over. And based on our size that we're trading, if we're trading 100 shares and make $1 per share, or we trade 10 shares and make $1 per share, it's the same exact trade.
Yep.
It's just with a larger
Yep.
size.
I got it. Okay.
So that one thing, big thing right there, is I want you to really take the pressure off yourself that you need to learn everything
I don't.
110% to be good at
Okay.
this, because you really don't,
Okay,
right?
that's good.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm everything you're taking, I'm putting into my own life and where that fits. So I
Yeah.
totally understand that.
Yeah. So here's a chart. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see this. It's
Okay,
fascinating.
let's look at Tesla now. I want to show you a little cool thing about Tesla.
Okay.
So here's Tesla right here. All right.
Okay.
Now, all of these pretty colors might not make any sense to you.
Not
Okay.
at all.
Okay. And that's totally fine. But one example is what I'm going to show you. Okay. Let me get rid of all this stuff.
Holy cow.
All right. Trust me, this will all make sense to you.
Okay.
Okay. You don't need to understand this. I'm just going to show you one thing you were asking about, like kind of how you know when to buy certain things.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So say you wanted, and I'm gonna say you wanted a certain type of, say you guys are putting up a new fence, right? Say you're putting
Okay.
up a new fence somewhere, okay? And there's this really expensive fence that's kind of out of your guys' budget, but man, would it be awesome to have that fence, right?
Yeah.
That could be, well, say you walk into the store one time and that fence is 50% off. What do you think that would entice you to buy it?
Hell yes.
Okay. Let's look at Tesla right now.
I know.
Okay. From $0. Okay. This is $0 right here.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the highest it's ever been.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
And
guess what?
I have just quick question. The numbers to the right, the dollars. So is that saying at one point, is its highest point, it was almost $500 a share?
Yep. It was
Okay.
around 490, 491.
Okay. Okay.
So remember your fence thing, right?
Yep,
Everybody would
yep.
like to have a piece of Tesla,
Hell yeah.
right? Well, look at this. If I draw from 0
Okay.
to the high that it's ever been,
Yep.
this is 50% off right there.
Jesus. Yeah.
That's halfway between 0 and the high.
Yeah.
That's a 50% off sale
Right.
for one of these massive stocks that everybody wants.
Right.
So when you put it into that, when you think of these as like a commodity anyway, like something you want to buy, right?
Yeah.
And look what is happening to Tesla once we got into this halfway, this 50% off sale. This just means it's going up.
Ah, because everyone bought in at the 50% off. And so now
Right.
there's
So where did the
more.
buyers show up?
Right. They showed up at the 50 when it was
Yeah.
at 50% off. And so now it's going up because there's more buyers than there are sellers.
Nailed it.
Because there's so enough people like me that are like, well, Tesla's not going to stay down
You
forever.
can see that
I
professional
right.
traders and professional investors, we do not care whatsoever about if we're going to buy something, we don't care about the
Right.
narrative that's
No,
going on.
exactly.
We just look
You
at the
mhm,
price.
right.
So, you know, and that's why investors love the 50% off sales, because you
Yeah.
got to think about it. Think about it this way. When is the next time Tesla is ever going to be half cost or half
It's
off?
not.
It's
It's
not.
not.
If you're managing hedge funds and you're managing pension funds and you're managing all this, well, you sure as heck want to have some Tesla at half off, right?
Right.
So the big money will step in, you know, to trade this. I mean, just as a simple example, Tesla trades on average 100. Remember we were talking about our little swab, our share?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Tesla trades 104 million of these every day. That's how much volume of shares are traded,
Holy cow.
right? So you can see that to get something to stop going down that trades that much and go the other way, that's a lot of
A
money
lot. A lot.
that's stepping in. So, but that's a really good, that's a super basic example that you'll probably carry with you the whole rest of your trading career. Because if you want
Right.
to invest in something, and obviously it's a good company, if you want to invest in something and you see that it's half off, it's like that ain't a bad place to
Right.
pick
Right.
some up, right?
Yep.
Because the way I look at longer term stuff like this is, as I said, when's the next time I could get this price? Yeah, probably
Never.
not anytime soon, right?
No.
So, okay, so that's a chart, and
Okay.
I'll introduce you to what, you know, platforms to download and do all that. It's
Okay.
really not hard. That's that. But what triggered me was your question of how do we know things that we want to
Right.
buy and sell? Where that's a very straightforward, basic,
Interesting.
you know,
Okay.
um, type thing. And I guarantee you there's, you know, slush funds and pension funds and hedge funds and everybody else gobbling this up.
Right.
And the more buyers show up, right? The more buyers
Yep.
that show up, the higher the price goes.
Absolutely.
What other questions pop into your
Oh
head?
my gosh, a million. I guess this is like the most basic of all questions. So when you talk about you put in a sell order, you put it who's keeping track of the sell orders and who monitors that, like little elves that just sit there?
Hold
Because
on, let me grab something real quick. Funny you should ask. Okay, you ready for this one?
yeah, yeah.
Bringing my crafts back out. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see what those say.
Uh-uh.
Okay.
Friendly bank. Oh, friendly broker. Okay.
Okay, so you have, this is how you do this, okay? So you've got money, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this is how you do this. So this is exactly how this whole shebang takes place. So you find a broker, which I can,
Yeah.
there's a million of them. I can give you the
Okay.
correct one to go to. Okay, and you take your money and you deposit it into the broker. Okay,
Okay.
so now you have,
A brokerage account. Okay.
right? So now you
Ah.
have your brokerage account. Okay,
Okay.
and you'll have a platform like I just showed you that chart, right?
Yep.
You'll have a platform where you can enter what you want to buy and where you want to sell it. So what
Okay.
happens is, say you want to buy a share of Schwab over here, right?
Yep.
So this is the exchange. This is like the New York Stock Exchange over here. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens is you put an order in, you type an order in to your brokerage account. Your money comes out of your brokerage account.
Okay.
It goes to
Oh.
the exchange, okay? And it goes to the person. Remember, every buyer has to have a
Yep.
seller. So it comes out of your brokerage account, goes through the exchange. See why they call it an
Yep.
exchange?
Yep.
So money exchanges hands and it goes to the person selling you the share of stock, right?
Okay.
So it
Yep.
instantly goes to him. Those shares then move into your brokerage account. So instead of having the money in your brokerage account, now you have the shares.
Makes sense.
And that's all it is. So you'll have a platform that you can trade on, right? Like I showed
Yep.
you, like that chart. And it's
Yep.
very, very simple. Don't get overwhelmed by that. Once I show you how to use one, it's literally numbers. Like you look at a chart and you say, hey, it's at $10. Sell $10, enter, right? And then that's all it is. But you'll run everything through your brokerage account. Unless
Okay.
someone has an actual seat on one of the stock exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange. You know, the guys that you see in the vests and they're waving like in the
Yeah.
movies, right? In the
Yeah.
movies, those guys actually trade on the exchange, right?
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
99.9% of us, we
Use a
don't do
broker.
that, right? We're
Okay.
not going to get a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, and that's just not us, right? We'll go through a brokerage.
Got it.
It's
And then does the
just like,
brokerage take a percentage of what you
yeah,
trade?
they make money by commission, right? And the
Got it.
commissions are
Okay.
super cheap, super cheap.
Okay.
Like almost down on certain ones to maybe $1 a trade.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
it's not like when I started. Like when I started in 07, the cheapest you could get was it was about $20 on each side of the trade, meaning $20 to
Wow.
buy it, $20 to sell it. But now literally, like there's some brokers out there that'll charge you a penny a share.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it's very, very simple. So you don't even have to worry about the exchange, right? You don't have to worry about anything about stocks.
Right.
Like I said, all it is, right? Here's their swab over here you want to buy, right? Here's your money. You take your money, you open a brokerage account. It just sits in there now.
Yep.
It doesn't earn much interest. That's the kind of crappy part, but earns a little bit of interest.
Right.
And then, so you've got money in there now. And you're
Yep.
like, cool, I want to buy something, right? I want to buy a swab. Like, okay,
Yep.
enter my order. This all happens instantly, right?
Okay.
Like within milliseconds. It goes boom to the seller. He sells you the shares. Now you've got the shares in your brokerage account instead of the cash.
Okay. And then they also monitor, like, if let's say I bought Schwab at $10, and then they also monitor that I put my sale price. I say I want to sell at $12. They monitor that, and then they match up the buyer with that is willing to pay the 12.
Exactly. What happens is you put in an order with your broker to sell. Say you bought it at 10. You put in an order with your broker to sell it at 12. your
Yeah.
broker then sends that order to the exchange. And it's
Okay, got it.
just sitting there on the exchange
Just hanging out.
until
Okay.
someone takes it.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that's it. So it's very,
It's pretty
everything is
basic.
very hands off.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to, we don't
Okay.
have to do,
That's
we're very
amazing.
fortunate. Yeah. We don't have to do a whole lot.
Much. Right.
You know what I mean? That's why I said
Yeah.
there's no one to police us here, right? Like
Wow.
once we have money in a
Wow.
brokerage account, we know that those orders are going to instantly go to the exchange when we hit
Right.
the button, right? But yeah, does that make sense?
Total sense.
Okay.
Like this is starting to click.
Okay, good.
The very
Okay.
basics, but it's clicking.
Well, you'll love my little video series I did then, because
I love it.
These are all the crafts that I have.
This is how I learn. You
These
are
are all the
speaking
crafts
my
I have for
language.
my video series.
Oh no, I have to learn like that. I am that type of learner. It makes it stick so much better.
Yeah. So just remember, takeaways from today is
Yeah.
I'm crafty, apparently,
Yeah.
with things around the kitchen and the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right. I was actually, I started, when I send you the video, the first video I did, I used dental flossers. And I was in the bathroom, I brushed my teeth last night, and I always floss my teeth before I brush my teeth, and I was like, oh crap. I walked back into the kitchen to get all my, so I used them on all my little demonstrations. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So anyway, so takeaways, from today, to make it easy on yourself, it's just an auction. Just
It's
like
an auction.
just
Easy
like
enough.
going to auction, and the
Yep.
stock's not going to move until you have somebody willing to buy it.
Right. Right. That makes total sense to me.
Yep. And then from that point, the next thing you can take away is, how do we actually buy something? Well, we
Right.
open a brokerage
Brokerage
account,
account. Yep.
and they do all the work. All we have to do is
Yep. Yeah.
and it's instant. Well, cool.
I'm ready to trade. I'm totally kidding.
No, that's great. Hopefully, so going forward, yeah, if you could lead like this, that helps me so much, because like I said, then we're going after what your brain is wanting.
Yeah. This is my brain. Yeah, like this
know?
makes sense. I needed this platform because I need to understand the basics. Obviously, the big piece I don't understand is how you're reading the charts, how you're all those pieces. I'm way lost.
Yep.
But
we'll get
this is really huge on understanding. I needed this foundation because I didn't even understand this
good.
at all.
We'll keep building it, like I said,
Yeah.
just brick by brick, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't look at a chart if you don't know why it's moving.
Right, exactly. And that's what I didn't understand. I was like, what? Who's telling it to move? Why is it going anywhere? I didn't even understand that piece. So that helps tremendously. I'm excited.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yay.
Cool.
Like I feel like if I can master this and people can start learning this in your way, which is awesome, it can really change a lot of lives in a really great way.
The thing that I've learned too, through teaching this with people and just my life in general, is, as you were talking about, this is when you start to learn things like this, whether you're successful right at the beginning or not so successful or whatever, you're making a step to change your situation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that obviously is the hardest part, that first step. But once you have people that are, because we're talking about money and people get emotional about money. But if you have someone that can just, give you enough faith and enough nudge to say, hey, you can at least explore this. And then you see it as a kind of that snowball effect where people start to feel empowered, and they're like, wow, I'm doing something. I'm not sitting back. I'm not sitting here just getting beat up every day and just taking it. I'm going to make a step to better my situation.
And that's
a really cool thing.
It's huge. I love it.